Welcome to Soapy. I'm Rebecca Budig.
And I'm Greg Rikaart.
Thank you for being here today. These words are overused, but in this case, they're true. She is a legend, and she is an icon.
It's
Our
true.
next guest today.
Yes. Falcon Crest, Dallas, Friends, Roseanne, Sybil, which we're definitely going to talk about, Mork and Mindy.
Oh, yeah.
Days of Our Lives in General Hospital.
Don't forget Pee-wee's Big Adventure, my favorite movie of all time. And The Bold and the Beautiful. She plays Dottie Bright on The Bold and the Beautiful. I'm so excited that she's here.
Folks, Morgan Fairchild is joining us today.
Yes, she is. It's hard to talk to someone who's been doing this for so long because you just can't get it all in. But we're
going to cover a lot of ground.
We're going to try.
Stick around.
Beautiful, elegant Morgan Fairchild, icon, legend. You're all of those things.
Oh, thank you, honey. I appreciate
so much
it.
for coming and being here.
Oh, sure. It's so nice to see you guys.
It's a pleasure.
I know you have been on The Bold and Beautiful off and on over the years, and I just have only been there a year and a half, so I've never gotten to see you. And there's a buzz around the studio when you're there.
Really?
Oh, yes.
That's very nice to
hear.
hear.
You are well loved.
They are so nice over there. You know, it's always fun to work with people who are nice. I have no idea what they're going to do with us. You know, they've got Jim J. Bullock and me coming in doing this little silly thing, and doing the commentary, the color commentary.
Was it for a fashion show?
Yes.
Well, we're going to cover your daytime career. One thing that I was curious to talk about was, in an interview, you said that you've had the same look and you're stunning and beautiful as you've always been since you were 14 years old, yes?
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, did you ever have a director or was there ever a project where they were like, we want to do something different? And have you ever had to get out of your comfort zone physically for a role?
Oh, yeah. No, lots of times. I love that. I love doing things that people aren't expecting to see me do. I mean, I went over to Croatia and Bosnia during the war and played a nun, and so I always like things where I'm not going to have to be, as my mother would say, all gussied up, as I say, getting into full drag. But I like doing things people don't expect and taking it down. It's just that I created a look for me when I was 14, and I've just kind of stuck with that for general stuff, the way I'm usually cast. But I'm always looking for things to do things where I'm not doing things the way I'm usually cast, kind of different kind of things. I'm always happy to take it down.
Yeah. You mentioned like 14, you created your look. You were accentuating your eyes and everything like that. Did your dad, because I read somewhere or I heard somewhere that your dad didn't approve of what you and your sister were pursuing a career in the entertainment industry.
Well, my dad was very old school Texas, and he thought only whores were in the theater. So the fact that my sister and I, 9 and 10, are downtown at the theater, although nothing good happens in downtown Dallas, so back in the day. So he just always thought that it was kind of embarrassing and terrible that we were doing this,
Did he come around?
Eventually, I know he used to say he couldn't believe anybody would pay me to do this. But the Christmas I got him a car, he appreciated that.
He said, "Oh, well, you're not a whore. You're actually working."
Yes. Well, he came to see. I was doing a big tour of Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. And Fritz Holt was the director who had done La Cage aux Folles on Broadway, and this is all a big deal, And it was rehearsal in Atlanta, big production, big musical, and he actually came to rehearsal a few times. And, then I'd have to come in and work on costume and doing all this stuff and making changes, working with the director. What are we going to do here? And finally, he never said it to me, but my mother said, he told her, she actually works. It's hard.
So interesting. I have a very similar upbringing. My dad was a businessman, and he didn't really understand the business. And I remember he came to visit me at All My Children, and he was like, wow.
Yeah.
Because there is so much work involved in doing what we do. And
civilians don't know that, you know. I mean, it's like he was an engineer. If I went in to engineer at Texas Instruments, I'd have no clue what was going on.
He was an engineer, so maybe this is why you kind of have a love of science. Am I right? paleontology.
I have a love of science, yeah, but that I don't think that came from his being an engineer. I was just always fascinated. A different kind of science.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
I wanted to be a doctor or paleontologist. So,
Yeah. But still, I mean, you have to be smart to be an engineer. You have to be smart to want to be a doctor and a paleontologist. So that's fascinating.
And if I'm not mistaken, your mother was the one who sort of pushed you into performing because of your shyness?
Yeah, well, my poor mother, they never expected to get actors, in the family. No, when I was in the 5th grade, I couldn't make an oral book report. I was one of those kids that teachers loved. I was in advanced placement classes, made straight A's, never opened my mouth, Yeah. And this one teacher decided that we were going to have to give oral book reports. And I could write like hell, but oral, I stood in front of the class for 3 days and absolutely nothing would come out, just paralyzed. And so my mother, coming, from a family with attorneys and big debaters at SMU and everything, was determined no kid of hers was going to be this handicapped by shyness, just, that it would really mess up my life if I couldn't function. So she decided to enroll us in what they called drama classes, and which was really basically us standing up in front of each other on Saturday and reading things out loud. We had to pick pieces, and it wasn't really much acting. It was a lot of reading the bells, the tintinnabulation of the bells, a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. And but then at the end of the year, they had us do a play. And of course, my sister, every Saturday, she'd all excited. She was the big personality when I was the shy, quiet one. And she's all excited to go to acting class, and I'm throwing up in the bathroom. Oh, yeah. And so, but at the end of the year, they had us do a play. And I'm, being the little fuddy-duddy that I am, they had me play the adult in the play, and I kind of liked it, but I would never admit that. It was actually kind of fun, much better than standing up there and reading stuff. So then one Saturday morning, my mother was reading the paper and she says, "Oh, the Junior Players Guild is having auditions today." And I'm like, "Oh God, no." And so anyway, the Junior Players Guild was this really prestigious children's theater in Dallas at the time, and had a great building, auditorium over in Highland Park. I mean, very well funded, really did great productions. Anyway, we have to go to the audition. And then my sister's saying, "Oh, yeah." And I'm like, "No, don't go." Anyway, we sit in the back of the theater all day in this big auditorium and watch these kids do improvisational auditions.
God.
And
that's terrifying. You have to watch.
Well, you're watching, but you're also kind of thinking, I could do that well.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do that well.
How old are you at this point?
9.
9.
Yeah,
okay.
I could do that well.
Yeah.
But I'm not going down there. It's like finally my sister, she swears it was we were the last ones there. I don't remember it that way. But she says, "I want to go audition." So then I knew that if I didn't go audition, I'd get yelled at all the way home. And so I always say I have a career today because my fear of the stage was second only to my fear of my mother. So we got little parts in the show. And that, I always say, that's the difference that an adult can make in a kid's life.
Yeah.
If that director hadn't given us both little parts, I don't know if I would have ever had the nerve to go back. But we got little parts in the show, and then we kept going to auditions and getting things. Catherine for more than I. Catherine would be starring in it, and I'd be cleaning the toilets in the bathroom and doing, I think one of the first ones was Heidi. So I was doing creaking doors and baaing like a sheep. But it was, but we got our feet wet in the theater, and we were so fortunate to work at a theater called Theater 3 in Dallas, with great professional people who kicked our asses. It was not, this was not children's theater. This was Bertolt Brecht. This was like all kinds of stuff. But wherever we fit in with some of those shows. And it was such great training. When my sister went to Juilliard, she called me up. She says, they were tougher on us at Theater 3. I got really good training at Theater 3. So but you're a kid, you don't appreciate it. You just think that's the way it's done. When you look back, you say, my God, thank God we were working with all these professional people.
I was 9 years old when I started too at a theater in Cincinnati, Ohio, like doing children's stuff, but working with real, union people, with professionals. And you learn so much.
Well, they kick it into you.
Oh, they do. They do.
And you learn by osmosis, by being around professionals and seeing what's expected and seeing how people behave.
Yes.
And sometimes how they don't behave.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Did you go to New York with your sister when she left for Juilliard, or?
No, I got married really young. And then she got a scholarship to Juilliard when she was 17. Houseman actually wanted to take her when she was 16, but he decided it wasn't morally right to have a 16-year-old living alone in New York. He didn't want to be responsible. But she was 17. And I got married really young to a guy in the rock and roll business. So I was around a lot of the rock and roll stuff in the day, as they say.
Was it still in Dallas?
Yeah, in Dallas. But we had a nightclub and we had he had a company that we did the southwestern leg of a lot of the tours.
Oh, wow.
So we did like James Taylor's first tour with Carole King as his opening act, and we had Sly and the Family Stone, The Doors, Joplin, Hendrix, everybody.
Oh my God.
And then we had a pop festival 2 weeks after Woodstock with most of the same people that played Woodstock.
Oh my God.
And it's like our first date, I'm 17, our first date, and he's out of SMU Business School. He's not 17, He and his partners
God, you
wanted
sound
to.
like me.
They were opening this Soul City thing at the beginning of the Soul thing. And they had an act that they wanted to book that had mostly been playing the Chitlin circuit in the South. And so we go over to the club in Dallas that, the Black Club. It was still very segregated then. And the act comes out, it's Ike and Tina Turner. They blow us away. They opened the club for us. They'd play there 3 or 4 times a year. Kenny Rogers in the first edition before he went country. I mean,
Have you written this down?
Stevie Wonder in a 400-seat house. It's like Stevie Wonder singing and singing, playing all these instruments. Bouncing so much he bounced right off the stage, which was fortunately only about this. I never missed a beat, never stopped singing, just climbed back up on the stage. It got going.
All before the age of 20 you saw this.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That is just amazing. So when did you said you were shy, you were really hesitant to perform. So when did this spark hit?
Kind of little by little, because people kept hiring me. I thought I was going to be a doctor or a paleontologist out in the Gobi Desert dusting up dinosaur bones, So
It's never too late.
People kept hiring us, and me and my sister, and we kept doing shows. And I remember when I was about 16, to our mentor at the theater, I said, "Do you think I could do this for a living?" Because I knew Catherine was big and the big personality, and Catherine could do this, but I was the shy one. And I said, "Do you think I could do?" And he gave me the best advice. He said, "If there is anything else in life you can do and be happy, do that." And my mother taught junior English in high school at Richardson, and she would have me come up sometimes and do like a little seminar for the acting class. And she called me after I'd done one, and she said, "Well, I got a little complaint." And I said, "What? What did I do?" And she says, "Well, that part where you say if you can be happy doing anything else, do that." They didn't like that. And I said, "Mom, any kid I can save from going into this business by scaring them off with that, they shouldn't be in this business." I saved them a lot of time. Go get a degree in something you can make a living at.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so
a good,
true.
First of all, and I know that there was a transition, right, where you realized that, was it when you were on the set of Bonnie and Clyde as Faye Dunaway's stunt double? Is that where you were like, maybe film and TV is more my...
I kind of fell in love with the movies, doing being on Bonnie and Clyde, I mean, I loved the theater, but I kind of fell in love with film and TV, and I mainly film on that one. Just being on that set, I had so many great people, so many great performances. And who knew it was going to be a big hit? You don't know what you're doing. It was Warren Beatty's first production as a producer, So who knew it was going to turn into something?
Well, not just that the movie itself turned into something. I'm reading Easy Riders, Raging Bulls right now, and they're talking about the way the 70s and late 60s changed film in this country, and that not only that film and maybe The Graduate really ushered in that new era of film, and to be a part of that, my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, it was just great. I mean, it's like Gene Hackman's maybe third movie, maybe Faye's third movie, maybe Estelle Parsons' second or third movie. Michael J. Pollard was hysterical, and I'm sitting around talking to everybody, between scenes all the time, and hanging out and just absorbing everything. And there was one young man who came, and he had a nice scene and funny scene in the movie, but he was very nervous, and they kept not getting to him, and he was so I'm sitting there talking to him all day and trying to calm him down, and it was Gene Wilder. And it was his first movie. I think it was his first movie. Anyway, and so like years later, I ran into Gene on the street in New York, and I said, "Gene, you remember on Bonnie and Clyde, that kid you were sitting around talking to?" And that was me. He said, "That was you."
Oh my God, that's so amazing.
Wild. Yeah.
So you end up in New York, and Search for Tomorrow was that your first big acting job?
Well, to me, a lot of the other things I'd done have been big acting jobs, doing tours and theater and all that stuff. They were my first TV job.
Yeah.
And you were modeling too, yeah?
Well, you know, I'm too short to be a real model.
I think you were trying to be a commercial
But
actress.
back in Dallas, you know, I could do like hand and foot modeling, hair, beauty product modeling, hair and makeup, you know, petite lines. Once in a while I could do petite lines, you know. But so when I got to New York, I was trying to, well, that's how I got Search for Tomorrow. Nobody would take me. I couldn't get an agent. Nobody wanted me. They said I didn't have the right look. It was the 70s. We want real people. You're too elegant. You're too porcelain. You're too glamorous, you know. And I finally said to one casting person, what do I have to do? Break my nose to get an audition here. So one day I thought, well, I'll see if I can pick up any extra money like I did in Dallas. Maybe I can do some modeling, you know, stuff. So I went over to Eileen Ford, and I'm sitting out there in the little entryway waiting for Eileen with my little portfolio. And this lovely, elegant older gentleman walks by and goes into his office, and he pokes his head out and he says, who are you? What are you doing here? And I said, Morgan Fairchild, I'm waiting to see Miss Ford. He says, well, she's busy. Come in and talk to me. So I go in, it's Jean Barricat, who was lovely, and we're talking and talking, and finally he says, you know, I'm in charge of the commercial division. We have just opened a commercial division. I would like to take you on because we have a lot of beautiful girls, but they can't talk. You're an actress. You could talk. I said, yeah, I can. so I'm like starting the Eileen Ford commercial division. And so then one day he called me up and he said, okay, this is another area we want to break into, soap operas. So they want an audition for the soap opera for the Search for Tomorrow, and it's like a 3-episode arc, and we'd love to get our foot in the door here, so go over to that. So I go over to that, I don't get it. And then 2 or 3 days later, they called back and said, you know, like you, we have somebody that we just hired that's been here 6 weeks, and it's really not working. They play the kind of bad character.
Oh, yeah.
It's really not working. So suddenly I'm on Search for Tomorrow as a regular. Didn't get the 3-day arc, you know, but got the regular.
Yeah.
And and I still had no acting agent. So,
that's so crazy.
yeah.
How was that experience, being on a soap?
Oh,
the first time?
You know, it was great. It was great learning experience. It was wonderful because I'd done all this theater, but I hadn't done much film. And I mean, I'd done things like Runaway Production in Texas. They always had like movies that would come down and commercials and things like that. But because it was a right to work state, but I hadn't really done a lot of television, and so I really wanted to learn. And especially 3-camera. You guys know 3-camera is harder even. And so I remember I came in one day early from lunch, and I heard the crew guys sitting in the green room talking. He said, yeah, the new girl's great. I wish she'd just hit her marks. And I'm like, God, I thought I was hitting my marks. So I took somebody, I said, how am I not hitting my marks? Because for theater, I was hitting my marks, but I didn't realize for camera, for 3-camera, it's this. It's not this. It's this. You know. So you're learning, and you know, I would go in and watch the show every day, you know, on our lunch break. And so one day, one of the guys, you know, comes through. Says, why are you watching our damn show? And I said, well, because, you know, I got married young. I didn't get to go to college. And if I'd gotten to go to SMU and they'd put me in film school and they would have taped me doing scenes and they'd show me what I did wrong. And these people are paying me to do it.
Yeah.
I'm watching everything I'm doing wrong. I'm learning camera technique. I'm learning what works and what my good angles are and all this stuff.
Nothing like on-set training, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we
learning
get to
hit
do
my
it every
marks.
day, and you get to try. You have a bad day, you get to do it again the next day, which is kind of the beauty of soaps.
It's almost like theater in that way. I love it. Where it's like it's the same but different every day, and then
it's like improv.
Yeah, yes.
Really, so fast.
Well, so then what brought you to Los Angeles?
Well, I've done Search for Tomorrow for several years, and I'd done Kojak and a few other things like shooting in New York. But I started realizing that if they wanted a waspy blonde, they cast it in L.A. So I was kind of at that decision point. Do I want to stay in New York and do soaps and commercials? Because by then I was doing a lot of commercials. Or do I want to see if I could make it in L.A.? So I thought, I'm just going to go see. I kept my apartment in New York. I'm just going to go see if I can get work. And because so many people came up from soaps and you never heard from them again. You know, so you don't want to leave the security is everything. But at the same time, you know, if this is a good age, I'm not married, I don't have kids, I'm like in my 20s, give it a shot. If you don't do it, just come back to New York and, you know, do what you're doing now. So I came out to to LA, found an apartment. Catherine was going to move out too, and my sister. And then, you know, I was here like 3 weeks and I got a job. And I was with Patrick McGowan, who'd done The Prisoner and Braveheart. I mean, he hadn't done Braveheart at that point, but kind of a legendary British actor, very voice second only to Richard Burton, voice of God, and just working with fabulous people, playing a blind ex-Peace Corps worker, no frou-frou, hair in a ponytail, no makeup, thinking, oh, good, I'm going to get to act. I don't have to do the glam stuff. Anyway, little did I know. But it was I got it, but it was again one of those weird things. This young man, I couldn't get an agent in New York. This young man had like a cubbyhole agency, literally probably about the size of our 4 chairs here.
Oh my God!
And he said, I believe in you. I'd like to take you on. And so he was working with me. Well, then he went and worked for a company called Stark Hesseltine, and Stark Hesseltine was a big New York agent. I mean, he represented Neil Simon, Redford, put together Barefoot in the Park, all this legendary theater stuff, all this, big deal. And he had turned me down like 18 times. So wouldn't take me. Anyway, Lloyd says, can I work with this young woman that I'm working with? And he says, okay. And then he finds out it's me. It's like, oh, okay. Anyway, so I'm working with him.
Little did he know.
Yeah. Well, and then they merged with another company called Richard Dickens, who had also turned me down a bunch of times in New York, to open the LA office. And so Richard's coming out to open the LA office. And so they're bringing all their Broadway actors and stuff. And so right away I get a job. Well, at the second Christmas party, second year's Christmas party, the agent comes up to me kind of slightly tipsy and says, I didn't want you. I said, I know, Richard. I know you didn't want me, And he says, but I got to tell you, you and Polly Holiday, who was on Alice, the Kiss My Grits and everything.
Yeah.
You and Polly Holiday are keeping the agency going.
There's a party because of you guys.
Well, yeah, because they were succeeding because of us, because she had a series, but I worked all the time.
Yeah.
And so, it's like one of those things of, just because they say no, don't ever give up, just keep pushing.
Were you at that point doing like more comedies? Because I know you do both. I mean, you've really succeeded in both.
Well, when I came out, I was doing a lot of comedies. I was doing Newhart and Happy Days and all of these. And they kind of typecast me in that. Then when I started doing some of the miniseries and stuff, then they said, oh, she's a drama actor. Then whatever you're doing, they're always surprised you do the other thing.
I know.
I didn't know you were funny. I remember I was doing a Robin Hood with George Segal. We're shooting in England, and we're all in costume and walking by the river, our first big scene together. And as soon as we finish, George Segal looks at me and says, I didn't know you were funny. It's like, yeah, that's why they hired me to do a comedy here.
Isn't it interesting? You're an actor. Well, not everyone can do comedy, to be fair.
No.
Comedy is really, you've got it or you don't. I think.
Well, comedy is like dancing.
Yeah.
It's like dancing.
It's
you either have rhythm or you don't.
I totally agree. So I can see why people would be surprised because, you see someone one way and it is hard to know that someone does comedy unless they're doing it. But
and I think we all have struggled with getting pigeonholed as one thing. And we just had Jack A on, who is a brilliant dramatic actress.
Love her.
She's spectacular. We told her you were coming here and she wanted to share that you were the person who introduced her to hair extensions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You showed
Hollywood
her the way.
secrets.
You showed her the way. We're speaking about comedy. I have to talk to you about Pee Wee Herman if you don't mind.
Oh, not at all. I love
that was my Pee Wee's Big Adventure was maybe my favorite. It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Thank you.
And I love the story of how you met him. Did you meet him at a comedy club?
I was hosting Night at the Improv. Back in the day, there was a little series called Hot Night at the Improv.
Yeah,
and I'm hosting it that week.
Yeah.
And so we're over at the Improv and in the afternoon rehearsing. And it's a lot of the older comics. Shecky Green, I remember, was one. And they come in and they run through their act and we see what we're doing. And I'm doing the intro and the exit. And then this young guy comes in and very quiet, and he says, I'm not going to run through my act. I just stopped by to tell you, whatever happens tonight, I won't hurt you. And
oh my God, I'm dying.
I'm like, well, okay. What does that mean?
And was he dressed as Paul? Was he just
it
Paul?
was just
Or was he
Paul.
Pee Wee?
It was
Okay,
just
it was just Paul. Okay.
So then that night we do the show. I've gotten through all the older actors, and he comes out as Pee Wee, which I've never seen, and it has a brown paper bag of plastic spiders and snakes that he's throwing at me and doing all this crazy stuff. And because I grew up in the theater, I just go with it. We improvised. We did all this fun stuff, and so after the show, he comes up. He says, "Oh, this is so great! You just went with it. You got me. Nobody ever gets me. You just went with it." So we became great friends. So then, I would go with him to. He was getting nominated for different awards for comedy, and he would always say, "Will you go with me?" And I'll show up in my evening gown, and he comes as Pee Wee. So me and my Gucci and him as Pee Wee. Anyway, so it's. Anyway, he calls up one day. This is when I still had an answering company, So they say, "We have Pee Wee Herman on the line," and I said, "Okay." I said, "Paul, I know your real name. You don't have to say it's Pee Wee Herman." So he says, I just have a big favor to ask. And I said, yeah. And he said, "Well, I'm doing my first movie." And I said, "Great, congratulations." And he said, "Yeah, we have no money. We have no money. We're doing it on total shoestring, but we need some celebrity cameos, and everybody's turned us down." And I said, "Okay, just stop there. Don't tell people everybody already turned you down."
It's like, wait.
And we have no money. I said, no, I got them. We have no money. I said, "When do you need me?" And he said, "Thursday." I said, "Okay, let me call Falcon Crest and see if I can get off." So I only had one scene that day, so they moved it. And so I show up Thursday on the set, and we're on the back lot at Warner Brothers, like on all these trees and forests and stuff, and they're doing a ninja fight. So I said, "Guys, I can do the ninja fight for you. 4.5 years of Kung Fu in Chinatown in New York. I can do the ninja fight for you. But not falling out of a tree, because if I break a leg, Lorimer's going to sue me."
He's trouble.
But anyway, so we do the ninja fight, and then Jim arrives, Jim Brolin. Now, I had done the hotel pilot with Jim Brolin a couple of years before, so I knew Jim. He arrives in this Pee Wee getup. And I said, "What are we doing?" And he says, "I have no idea," because we have no sides, we have no script, we have no clue what we're doing. And we're just there. I did the ninja fight. Now here's Jim, big Jim in this Pee Wee outfit. And I'm like, so then they say, "Well, just look at each other and say, 'I know you are, but what am I?'" And we're saying, "What does it mean? We don't have no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't be funny in context. And said, "But we don't know what it means."
God, it's so good.
You don't
so
need to know
good.
what it means. It's fine. So we do that. And so then I looked at Jim, and they said, "Okay, thank you guys." And I said, so I looked at Jim and I said, "Well, do you have to go back to work today?" And he said, "No, I got the whole day off." I said, "So did I. You want to do more?" And he said, "Yeah, what can we do?" I said, "I don't know. Let's talk to the guys." So we go over, and it's Paul and Tim Burton. It's Tim's first movie. Yeah. And he said, "Guys, you got us for the day. You want to do more? What can we do?" And they said, "Well, I don't know, because we just kind of borrowed the back lot set here. We don't have a set. We don't know what could we do." So Jim says, "Let me make a phone call." So he calls Aaron Spelling, and they shot Hotel, the series Hotel, at Warner Brothers too. Yeah. And so, so Aaron loans us the hotel lobby set for the day.
Oh, it's
so now we have a set. So now we have to figure out, so I become a spy, and Jim is a big game hunter, and Paul becomes a bellhop and is paging Mr. Herman.
With the
And that is all
voiceover.
improvised.
Wow, what a brilliant mind to be able to put all of that together.
Well, it was a collaboration, but mainly because, the idiot blonde bitch says, "You want us to do more? What can we do?" So.
One of the most fascinating parts of your career to me is that you could not turn on a sitcom in the 1990s without seeing you. Murphy Brown, Roseanne, Sybil, Friends, and we're going to talk. I have a Sybil Shepherd fandom that runs deep. But
does he?
But were you? But like, and as far as collaboration goes, like table reads and stuff. Were you? Talk about like what it was like being at table reads with some of like those really sort of iconic on some of those iconic shows, and getting to work with Roseanne and Sandra Bernhard and Candice Bergen and Sybil and Christine Baranski.
Well, who do you want first?
Let's see. Only because I think it's not as iconic and not as well known. I think what you and Sybil Shepherd did, and the food fight and the rivalry, is very underrated. And I always enjoyed watching you on that show tremendously.
We had so much fun, and it's. We just got along really great. I mean, we had great time. And Sybil always liked the fact that I was always game for anything. And so, like, one of the early shows, she and I are rivals. For people who haven't seen the show, we are rivals. We're both
They're
actresses
both
and we're
actors, always
rivals.
competing for the same
Yeah,
roles.
we're always
Yeah,
competing
yeah.
the same part. Anyway, and so there's a scene where her family is up front in the living room talking, and in the background, out on the balcony, you see us get into a fight, and she
Oh, yes.
throws me over the wall.
Good. I may have sent it to you.
And
I think you have. I don't know. I think I've
and
seen
so
it actually.
I kept saying to the guys, I want to do the fall. And they keep saying, no, we're going to get a stunt person to do the fall. We don't want you to do the fall. I said, no, I have a certain way I want to do it. I want to go up like this and down, and I have a certain way I want to do it. No, you can't do that. So finally, all week we're kind of leading up to it. And they say, no, we're going to have a stunt person. It'll be fine. I said, yeah, but the audience here will know that it's me. It'll get a bigger laugh. The audience in person, on TV, I'm done to be this big, but the audience in person will see it's me. So anyway, we get there and, they've got this wall set up that's about this big, getting close to dress rehearsal. And so I said, guys, all these years of Kung Fu, I can take this fall for you. And, and so they said, no, we get up to it and I just throw myself over, legs down. And they said, are you okay? I said, yeah, I told you I can do this fall. Let me do the fall. It's funnier if I do the fall. So I do the fall in that one.
And the conceit is that she's on a hill, so she's theoretically flying down a canyon.
It's a cliff.
But you did another fall into a fountain, didn't you?
Oh, well,
that's
that's
the one I said.
the food fight.
That's the food fight, right?
Well, this was when I'm
so
getting
good.
married to
To
Christine
Dr. Dick.
Baranski's
Right,
ex-husband.
right.
And so there's all this rivalry, and they kind of crash my wedding.
Yeah.
And, and so we're rehearsing.
so good.
And so toward the end of rehearsal, Sybil comes up and says, I have an idea. Are you game? And I said, like what? And she says, food fight. And I said, I'm game. So then but of course, when you do a food fight, you have to block it out and you have to shoot it in pieces.
Yeah. Kind
of in
because
one
you've only
take,
got so
right?
many wedding dresses to go
Yeah.
through. And here's you would do the gazpacho first, and then the avocado, and then did we make it to that? Yes. Okay, now let's go on. And what else here's the chocolate mousse, and here did we get all that? Yes. But the tricky part with the fall into the fountain is they'd built this fountain that was about this high off the ground. And so, but people watching it don't realize how hard that is to do. I have a dress with a train. I am in heels. I have to keep looking at her and back up
I
into
know.
this fountain and land straight. Because if I go off to the side, I'm going to crack my skull open.
Yeah.
And land straight back into the fountain and then come up and she hits me with something else. And so, but it's very tricky, But I told them I'd do it, which I did it,
Also,
so good.
what's so fun to watch is that the two of you look like you are barely keeping it together.
Oh
the
my
whole
God,
time.
we were having so much fun. But I was a little worried because I'm in heels and I'm on AstroTurf trying to get back to that fountain and go straight on because it's literally only about this wide. I mean, if I go to either side, I'm gonna
I know
be
it was
crunched.
really narrow. I remember watching that, going like, "Oh my God!"
But it was great fun. I always had great fun. I think she liked me because I was always game to do all the weird stuff.
That's great.
So.
And you got to play Matthew Perry's mother on Friends.
Oh yeah, no, I loved Matthew. He was such a sweetie.
Yeah.
And when they offered me Friends, the show was not a big hit yet, and so I said yes. I'd seen the show, and I thought the kids were all kids. They're not kids anymore, but kids were also talented individually, but also very good with ensemble, which is theater. You want that ensemble.
Yeah.
And I thought the show had potential, and I was right. And anyway, so I said yes. And I remember Cicely Tyson was saying to me, "Oh, Morgan, you're too young to play that guy's mother. You should turn that down." And I said, I've played kids' mothers and teenagers' mothers. At some point you got to make that transition. So I said yes. And then the first day on the set, Matthew, big puppy dog Matthew, comes running over. He says, "Oh, you won't remember me, but I used to hang out with you on the Flamingo Road and Falcon Crest set with my dad." And I'm like, "Your dad? Who's your dad?" And he said, "John Bennett Perry." Well, his dad was an actor who had recurring parts as a sheriff on Flamingo Road and Falcon Crest. And, so I'm like, "Oh my God, you were that kid?" Like 9, 8, I'm thinking, I guess I could be old enough to be this kid's mother. So it's, so we just had a great time. I mean, he was such a lovely young man and such a talent. And, it's a very sad, what happened with him, very sad.
Very devastating. And the whole cast of that show, the synergy amongst the six of them.
Oh, they were all great
all the incredible
together.
guest stars.
Great
like
together. And they
came in.
always gave us great material, because as you know, when you're doing guest star stuff, a lot of times they give the regular cast all the good lines,
good-
the
yeah, the
punchlines,
funny
and
parts.
just do the
Yes, yes,
setup.
yes, yes.
But they always gave us great material.
When Jack A was here, she was telling us about her love of AI, which is an odd thing to love, but she really likes it, and how Chat GPT helps her.
see how you feel
so
about
we
it.
we said to her, we said, well, why don't we'll ask Chat GPT to come up with a question that no one has ever asked you before, and it was really effective. So we're going to do that with you as well.
Oh,
and we
God.
we asked. No, it's not a tricky one. It's a really good
Okay.
one.
Oh, you already did it? They
We did
already
it.
came up with one?
Yeah,
Oh, dear.
we have two. Go ahead.
Because we basically said, well, what is something you have not yet been asked? And I thought this one was really interesting.
Well, we have a few.
What does glamour look like when no one is watching you?
Well, without the makeup and everything, I kind of look like an unborn chicken. I'm so white. So, I mean, that's when I first started. So glamour, what it looks like to me is, oh God, do I have to get into full drag today? That's what it looks like.
But if you're just gonna go to the grocery store or even just for a walk through the neighborhood, does our unborn chicken come out, or do you like to at least have
I
little
never
bit of
go
glamour?
out as an unborn chicken.
Okay.
I'm very old school, and I just always remember when I was a kid reading in the movie magazines that Natalie Wood would say she never even went to the grocery store without all her makeup on because she didn't want to disappoint the fans. And I've kind of learned the hard way that no matter how unrecognizable you think you are, somebody will say that, and then they're going to say, "Oh God, I saw her, and she looked like hell." So,
No one would ever say that.
Oh, they would, believe me. Oh, they've said so much worse. Especially since COVID, I run around in my leggings and my rock and roll T-shirts and sweatshirts and all this kind of stuff. I'm very big on Godzilla. I've got a few Godzilla sweatshirts I love. And, if I go crazy at Halloween, I'm a big Halloween nut. I go around my neighborhood and take videos of all the
You
lights.
do. I know you do that on Instagram.
And
yeah.
people,
People love it.
I started doing that during COVID, and people were saying, "Oh my God, something normal. Thank you, thank you, thank you." It's like a real holiday again, And then I just do it every year because I'm a Halloween idiot, and I would drive around my neighborhood. They go nuts in my neighborhood with
Yeah.
Halloween, so I just drive around at night, probably not the safest thing, and jump out and take videos of all the best lights and And over the years, I've gotten to know which ones are probably going to be the best houses.
Yeah.
And now it's just like in September, people start saying, "Where are the monsters?" I'm saying, "Guys, it's September; they're not out yet."
Okay. I have another
Oh, sorry,
question.
AI question.
What compliment has stayed with you the longest? Not from fans and critics, but from someone behind the scenes.
Good one.
Well, a couple of things come to mind. It's like, because I play bitches a lot, usually about day 3 or 4 on a set, somebody on the crew will come over and say, "I was really scared to be working with you, but you're really nice." It's like, that's nice. And because I'm a big believer and we're all in this together, over the years, I'll have people come up to me in a restaurant or at the airport or wherever and say, "Well, you won't remember me, but I was a day player on Flamingo Road, and you're the only one who came over and said, 'Hi, welcome to the set. Let me show you where the
Be
ladies'
kind.
room is. Let me
That's your
show, I'll
motto.
take you to the commissary for lunch, show you where everything is." Just to reach out to people, and the fact that they remember it like 40 years later, that touches me. But my favorite one, but from inside the business, was when I was working with Betty Davis. She gave me like the kindest compliment from old school. She said, "You're the only one today that has the glamour and the acting chops like we did." That I took to heart. That was a
Wow.
compliment, and she was great. I loved working with her.
That's amazing.
And they're both so meaningful, right? It's like to
Yeah.
know that you are gifted at what you're doing, but also beyond when the cameras aren't rolling, that you are somebody that people look up to and you can mentor younger actors. Because we always say that too, right? That it's not when you're finger wagging saying you should act this way on set, but it's you just set the tone by with your behavior. So it's
Well, the person at the top always sets the tone.
Yeah, I agree.
And for better or worse.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to make it be for better.
Mm-hmm.
But also, growing up in the theater, I did all of these jobs. So, like I'll be doing a show and the wardrobe people, toward the end of the run, they'll say, "Oh, we love you. You always hang up your clothes."
Yes.
Because I did wardrobe. It's like, or the
Yeah.
prop guy will come over and say, "You never run off with the props." Because I did props.
Yeah,
I know when that gun is supposed to be there and it's not there. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Well-
so I've always had that approach that we're all in it together
Yes.
in the work, but also in life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of your motto, right? You have that on, at least on Instagram. You say, be kind.
Be
Hashtag
kind.
Be kind.
Yeah, it
which I
doesn't
love.
hurt anybody to be kind.
I love it.
We have a brand new Soapy hotline where we have on our Instagram handle, fans will write in and ask questions. And a fan question that we got for you
Oh dear.
was
Oh, I have one too.
they wanted to hear about the city.
It was great fun. ABC was trying to reinvent daytime, they told me, and wanted me to come in for a year and do this show, and it was very ambitious. They wanted to shoot on location, and they wanted to do all this stuff in New York, and
Was it shot in New York?
yeah, it was
Yes.
shot in New York. It was shot. My apartment on that is the set where the view is now.
Oh, wow.
And so we were right across the street from from All My
All
Children.
My Children.
And so so I said I'd come in and do it for a year, and they'd kind of gotten in over their heads, so they'd rented all this equipment, and they didn't know what to do with it. And so because I've been doing this forever, and because one of my former boyfriends was a camera operator and shot, Being There and The Natural and Purple Rain and all these different.
Purple Rain.
I've been on sets a lot, so with the lighting guys, with him and the camera crew, and so they'd rented all this equipment that they didn't quite know how to use. So I'm saying, no, you've got a jib here, and see, you're just using the jib like it's a steady camera sitting here. What you do with the jib is like, here's a big party scene. Go up through the chandelier and follow me through the party scene. This is what you do with it. And then they'd gotten these things, these Chinese lanterns, and which none of them understood what they were. Now, the Chinese lantern was first used by Caleb Deschanel on Being There. I know this because my fiance was his camera operator, and and Shirley MacLaine, he said, was saying, where's my key light? Where's my key light? And just saying, no, you're going to look great with this soft light, But nobody on the soap knew how to work with. The actors didn't know how to work with it. So I'm the one who ended up using it a lot. And then one of the little actresses saying, oh yeah, Morgan demanded all this extra stuff and all this special lighting. I didn't demand it. They just
literally
got it.
just had an aha moment. So I get to All My Children, and we had this ball of light that they would hold, and we all
Chinese
looked
lantern.
great.
Yes.
And guess what they called it? The Morgan ball.
Yeah, because
They
I was
called it the
only one doing
Morgan ball, and I'm like, my mind is blown because you're on the city, which makes sense, but we had that Morgan ball and we were happy about it. I'm like, bring back the Morgan ball. I say that all the time.
No,
at the
it's
Bold
a
and
great,
Beautiful.
nice, soft light.
I know, it just
but none
makes
of
you
them
look
knew
so
how
beautiful.
to work with it
I
because
know.
you have to. It's a kind of lighting you, as an actor, have to pay attention to, and you have to be.
God,
it's
so
going to move with you,
crazy, the Morgan
and you
ball.
have to pay attention to it. But then one of the little girls was told the Soapy magazines, it's like, Morgan demanded all this extra stuff. I didn't demand anything. They just brought it all, and I'm the only one who knew how to work with it.
Right.
And some of the other actresses I'd tried.
Oh my God, I'm so thankful for that Morgan ball. I'm sitting here going bring back the Morgan ball, because we don't
need
have
a
it.
Morgan ball here.
Yeah, we need it. We need it. But okay, I have another fan question, but this is a fan from The Bold and Beautiful.
Okay.
He works behind the scenes.
Oh.
He wants you, he said, can you ask her about her AIDS activism in the 80s? And because he just, is such a fan of you for not being
Standing
afraid.
up at a time that
standing
not
up
many people
for
were.
people that were gay and otherwise.
Well, I'm very lucky that I was not born with the gene that makes you fearful of what other people think. I missed that. And I'm eternally grateful. I missed that.
That's a beautiful thing to
So
say.
when, like I said, I wanted to be a doctor. And one of my weird hobbies is emerging viruses and epidemiology. And so I'm always following all these weird viruses, even now with COVID or Nipah virus, all these different viruses are always breaking out around the world. Anyway, this new one came along, and the first thing I saw was little paragraph in the New York Times, like 11 cluster cases of Kaposi sarcoma in New York. And this is a cancer that usually only elderly men of Mediterranean extract get. And I thought, well, that's odd, because it said it was young people, And then there were 13 cluster cases of pneumocystis pneumonia in San Francisco. And I thought, well, that's odd, because usually your body can fight that off. Then it came out it was all in gay men. And then I knew something new was out there. And I started trying to warn all my gay friends. And but when Rock Hudson got sick, I had been Rock's date to a Lifetime Achievement Award about 6 months before he went on Dynasty. I was shooting Falcon Crest, and the studio lot stuff. I was hearing rock wasn't looking good on Dynasty, and I knew immediately what it was. I mean, America didn't know rock was gay, but everybody in Hollywood knew rock was
Yeah,
gay.
of course.
And I was very, very concerned. Anyway, so I just have these weird hobbies that people tease me about for years. You're sitting in the corner reading a book, when everybody else is doing. But I suddenly realized I was the only famous face that could go out there and explain what a retrovirus is and how it works and how you do and don't get it, and try to take the stigma off the gay community and try to get it just treated as a disease. So I testified before Congress to get AIDS funding, joined at the hip with Dr. Fauci and C. Everett Koop, who was the Surgeon General at the time, for years, getting funding, trying to educate people, did the first AIDS town hall. First town hall Nightline ever did was about AIDS. I remember Ted Koppel called and he said, I was on Falcon Crest. This was before cell phones, So they called me to the set phone, this freestanding. I said, yes. And, Morgan, it's Ted Koppel. And I was wondering, are you going to that dinner tonight? And it was going to be the Commitment to Life dinner. Rock was still alive. And it later became the AMFAR dinner, but nothing existed then. It was all brand new. And I said, well, yeah, I'm going to try to, but I'm working. And he said, well, here's the issue. I want to do a panel tonight on AIDS. And I have great, we need to educate people. He says, but we have our staff doctor and Marilyn Beck, who is a Chicago gossip columnist, and I knew she was going to go for fear mentality. And then this other big star. And I said, well, great. And he said, well, the other thing is the other big star is saying that if they don't get a single, they don't want to be a panel. They want a single that they have a backache. And so I said, well, all I care about is the disease. I don't care about getting a single. I just want people to get educated about the disease. If Big Star holds you up, let me know. But the problem is I'm at work. It's a black tie event. My dress is at home. So they send a car to my house. My maid gives them my evening gown. I'm changing into the evening gown in the backseat of the limo, going down the 101 to the Biltmore downtown. Get to the Biltmore. They put me in a cleaning closet. Literally, they throw a tarp over the Ajax and the mops behind me. And they stick this thing in my ear. It's my first satellite feed. I've never done one before. It's all new technology. My whole world is coming here. I've got no monitors. Now if you go in and you're going to do a satellite, you'll see something.
Yeah.
No. I'm in a cleaning closet with this thing in my ear, and I'm kind of deaf. So I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. And nothing to see, just the camera by itself. And we start talking. And at one point, Ted says, can you get it from kissing? So I said, well, no evidence you can get it from kissing. However, the virus this one is most closely tracking is hepatitis B in some studies in San Francisco. And they have just isolated hepatitis B in saliva. No evidence it's transmissible that way, but they, Anyway, so Ted says, oh, doctor, is that true? And the doctor says, no, that's not true. Well, I'm not going to argue with an MD on national television.
Right.
So we finished the show, and my friend Rick, who was producing Nightline at the time, told me what happened was we finished the show. The doctor was so put out that this little air-haired blonde, thought
Actress
thought she knew what she was talking about. And so they went and checked. And then they all called me the next day to apologize because my research was more up to date than his was. And hepatitis B had indeed been isolated in saliva in the studies in San Francisco. So, so then I become the go-to person for Nightline on AIDS, so then I'm doing the 5-hour town hall with a bunch of doctors and a couple of congressmen and me. When Magic Johnson was diagnosed, they tracked me down in Phoenix where I was shooting and had me come on and do it. But that was the thing. I just wanted to educate people. But in the meantime, because there was so much fear mentality, I lost a lot of work. I think it kind of cut my career kind of standstill at the time. I firmly believe I was written off a show because of that. And I've had casting people say to me in tears, I know you lost work because I was in the casting room, and when your name would come up, they would say you were too controversial because of that AIDS stuff. Wow. And I'm sorry I didn't defend you, But it was the best thing I ever did with my life. You realize you have a moral duty that you happen to be the weirdo who has the weird hobby that you know what you're talking about when everybody is scared to death. and you feel a moral obligation to go out and try to help. I'm so Aquarian, always trying to help. So I did that, and for years did tons of specials, even one with Geraldo Rivera, and all different kinds of specials trying to educate people on AIDS.
That's so remarkable.
Well, and now I'm doing it with COVID because people think COVID is over, and COVID is here, and I have so many friends who are getting disabled, have breast cancer, one's waiting for a kidney transplant. COVID gets in you, and it does all kinds of bad things to you forever.
But yeah, my sister struggles. She was hospitalized, and she's never been the same.
Well, my fiance had Parkinson's, and he had been in a nursing home. First time he caught COVID, I couldn't tell a huge difference. Second time, the dementia was worse, and he couldn't walk at all anymore. And then the third time he was hospitalized, came back, he couldn't even sit up in a wheelchair. He was in a chaise lounge. They would wheel him out of a chaise lounge. 6 weeks later, he's dead of heart attacks.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
Heart attacks are very common with COVID.
Yes, I know.
So I've never had it. I work all the time trying not to get it. I try to educate people on it because it's gonna affect our economy, because so many people prime age, working age, get sick and can never come back. And they're disabled. And, our government is not recognizing that you've got to do something to help them, but also that you want to educate people to not get it because you're going to lose so many people in their prime working age. Yeah. I mean, even if you don't care about the people and you don't care about the disease, maybe you care about the economy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I could talk to you for hours.
Oh my gosh.
You're fascinating. And
You're amazing.
It's incredible.
Go ahead. No.
Please, I'm gonna allow you.
I just wanted to talk about her podcast. I want to talk about her podcast.
Please tell us about Two Bitches from Texas.
Because that's what you're doing right now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
aside from coming over to Bold and Beautiful occasionally, and General Hospital.
Yeah.
Well,
my sister and I, because we grew up in the theater and we worked in theater a lot when we were kids, and during COVID, we started talking more because of her work schedule and the time difference, because she's in Texas and she teaches acting at night. So, about the time she's really going to work, I'm coming in. So we kept missing each other with work schedules. So we started setting aside a Sunday evening. When she finishes teaching Sunday, she calls me and she would drive up to her lake house. And for an hour and a half drive, we would just talk. And so then at one point I said, well, it really kind of came. One of our guests, I don't know if you've seen the podcast, is John Edward, the psychic.
Oh, I'm obsessed. Wait, are you friends with him?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, I can't say best friend.
I watched this one though, and he was incredible.
Well, I first met John like 30 years ago on in the green room at Donnie and Marie.
Oh my God.
And so anyway, one of my friends is a good friend of his, and she invited me to a thing in January last year. To one of the events that he does. He was going to be in town, where they have a big conference room, and he goes around. Anyway, so I went to that, and it was nice to get reacquainted. And he gifted me a reading. And so in my reading, he's getting a lot of stuff right. And then two things. He said, you should be doing more than just acting. You should be expanding. You should be writing and doing other things. There are other things that you should be doing with your life. And that was kind of the genesis of the podcast. And then my sister was having some eye surgery coming up. He said, your sister, and he got this all right. He said, your sister, she's going to have this surgery. It's going to go well, but her health problems aren't over. Tell her health problems aren't over. Don't get complacent. So I told my sister that, and like on the podcast, she says, oh, thanks, John. Well, sure enough, she had this very complicated 2 surgeons eye surgery. Then she had a hip replacement at Thanksgiving. Then at Christmas, she had another eye surgery to try to finish fixing that. And she may have to have another one. He was absolutely right. But he was kind of getting me to start thinking about, doing something else. And so I said to my sister, this podcasts are all the hot thing. Why don't we try that? Just do like what we do when we talk every Sunday. We'll just talk about the world, talk about what's going on.
You have a variety of people on too. It's not just.
Well, I have very eclectic friendships.
Yeah, you do. You do have a variety of people on. It's not just actors and, a politician on, and
Well,
right?
my first one was Donna Mills, who's an old friend.
Yeah.
And then Tom Nichols, who's a friend who is a Russia expert, taught at the Naval War College for 25 years now, writes for The Atlantic, talking about
Maybe that's who I saw.
Death of Expertise and some of his
Yeah.
books. And, and John had a book out that I thought was very interesting called Chasing Evil. So I wanted to talk about that in there. And so, and then, we've had Linda Gray on and Patrick Duffy and my sister, because she teaches, one of her students is a major influencer with 8.5 million followers. And he does a lot of videos with his dad. So we had him and his dad on. And it's like, of course, my first question is, what the hell is an influencer and what do you do?
They make a lot of money is what they do.
Seems like a lot
Yes.
of work, I gotta say.
I know,
It's a lot
I
of
know.
work.
And so, but we're trying to not make it just be the same old stuff.
Yeah.
Especially for old people. So we're trying to mix it up age-wise. All these different things. And then I had my friend Norm Ornstein, who's an old friend for 45 years, who's the foremost expert on Congress and voting rights in America, and was at the American Enterprise Institute for decades, and talking about what's going on. So we try to mix it up. So some of it is silly and funny, and some of it is funny and we hope educational. And but it makes me happy when people write in and say, "I love this. I learned so much."
Yeah.
So
Well, I certainly learned a lot today, and would love to have you for another 5 hours. So you'll have to come back. You'll have to come
I
back
know
and see
we
us
probably
again.
kept you too long.
can I just say the name though? It's Two Bitches from Texas.
Two Bitches from Texas.
Yeah,
And
Two Bitches
where
from
can
Texas,
we
I
find
love
Two Bitches from
Anywhere you get
Texas?
your podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, all the different places you get podcasts, you can get it. But again, that was one of the ones we finally get the podcast together and we're saying, what are we going to call it? And everything is too cutesy or too boring or too bland. And finally, I just said to the producer, it's really just two bitches from Texas sitting around talking and trying to save the world, And he said, that's it, two
your
bitches
title.
from
But
Texas.
I was telling you this before we started. I really like it because, I have sisters, and you can just feel that connection between the two of you. I don't know. It's sweet, and you're very similar
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. So
Well, we
it's fun to
are.
watch.
Yeah, we are very similar in a lot of ways. Although, like I always say, she's the big personality kid.
Yeah.
She's the one who says, I'm bigger and meaner. And I just say she's the big personality. Yeah.
Well, come and play with us on Days of Our Lives.
Yeah.
You know where to catch.
Are you still on Days of Our Lives?
Yeah.
Oh, please give my love to everybody.
Oh, I sure will.
I love that show. We had so much fun.
It's-
Deirdre and Judy and everybody, we had so much fun. Please give them my love.
I will absolutely do that. We have a blast, and it would be great to have you come back. So I'm going to start planting some seeds.
Okay.
And you know where to watch Two Bitches from Texas, and you know where to watch us on YouTube as well, or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. It has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time.